you and welcome to the Children's Scholarship Fund Applying for College workshop. We're so excited to have you here. Today we are going to be reviewing with the panelists. We have the Young Leaders Board who are here. I'm going to briefly introduce the volunteer panelists, and each of them will have about 4 or 5 minutes to speak. After that, we're going to open the questions up to the audience. First off, I'd like to bring everyone's attention to the social media up here in the corner of my screen. If you do not follow us on social media, we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, and we are on Twitter. So make sure throughout the panel, whenever you have a second and the speaker is not speaking, go ahead and jot those down and connect with us on social media so we can keep in touch with you. My name is Nicole Serrato. I work for the Children's Scholarship Fund, and I am also an alumni of the scholarship, which means I had the scholarship way back when, in the beginning of CSF. So just to explain a little bit of what the CSF Alumni Network is all of you received a scholarship from the Children's Scholarship Fund, which funds scholarships from K through 8th grade. And after 8th grade, you become what we called an alumni of the program. The alumni network that CSF created tries and helps provide resources and networking opportunities, resume building opportunities for you so we can continue to support you throughout your educational journey. Even though we're not giving you a scholarship anymore, we can give you resources and everything else to help guide your path. So that's what the CSF Alumni is network. Next, we have panelists on here that are Young Leaders Board and our President Councils. And so our Young Leaders Board are a group of professional New York City volunteers who volunteer their time to help provide you information and guide your path as well. They believe in education. They're here because they want to see you succeed. And I'm super excited to introduce them to you in a second. Also, one more thing is make sure to look out for future emails. This is going to be the first of the next 6 events that we have planned throughout the summer for you on how to apply for college, which is this one, down to financial aid and other things as well. So just look out for your emails. We'll be sending those out. Lastly, as I said in the beginning, we are going to be having a Q&A section after we hear from the young leaders. And so have your questions ready. Don't be shy. If you want to put your question in the chat and turn on your camera and ask your question directly, we would love that. If you prefer to ask your question anonymously, or you'd like to just put the question in the chat and not come on camera, that's totally fine as well. Just let us know. But other than that, we can go ahead and get started. I'm going to briefly introduce you to our panelists, noting their work affiliation and where they went to college. For her, first, we have Kyra Brown, who works at Morgan Stanley, and she graduated from Baruch College. Next, we have Josh, who works at Gold Point Partners, and his alma mater is the University of Michigan. We have Michelle, who works for Geller and Company and studied at Binghamton. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to correct me on that.
Binghamton.
I did practice that before.
You got it. You got it.
University in upstate New York. Lastly, we have Shavani, my apologies. We have Shavani, who works at Global Health Corps and is a graduate of New York City University. So each of the panelists are going to speak from about 4 to 5 minutes about their own college application experience and offer advice on how you can choose your college and what factors help them make that decision. So we can go ahead and start with whoever wants to go first. Josh?
Sure.
You're the first square in my corner.
Well, perfect. Yeah, happy to go first. So yes, my name is Josh. As Nicole said, I went to the University of Michigan. I was in the business school there. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. So when I was making my college decisions, where to apply, I knew that, I wanted to be, not next door to where I grew up, but I also didn't want to be across the country somewhere where I was far enough from home, but, my parents couldn't also show up at a moment's notice. So I was looking at primarily schools in the Midwestern area. I had gone to smaller private schools pretty much my whole life. So I really wanted kind of a bigger public school, sort of rah-rah atmosphere with the sports and all that fun stuff. So I was looking at a lot of Big Ten schools, Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, schools like that. But just for safety, I guess you could say, I applied to a pretty broad range of schools. Schools that I felt like I had a pretty fair shot at getting into. Some schools that were more of a reach, as well as some schools that I felt like I had a pretty good chance no matter what. So I applied to about 9 or 10 schools, just to make sure that I had all the bases covered. And really what it came down to was when I unfortunately didn't get into a few of the schools that I applied to, that probably wasn't going to get into, some schools that were very competitive. And then when it came down to it, for the schools that I got into, I really wanted to go into business. So a lot of it came down to which schools had a really good business program. That was really important to me. As I said, sports was a big one for me. And also just sort of the proximity to home. Ann Arbor was about a 3-hour drive from Cleveland. So if I needed to go home, it wasn't too far, but like I said, my parents can show up for dinner randomly any night of the week. And when I visited Ann Arbor, to me, that was probably one of the best business school programs, certainly out of the schools that I got into, but also in the country. And when I visited, it just seemed, it really seemed like a great place to be. And what I guess I would recommend is that you should, when you're looking at schools, you should really kind of feel out what's best for you, and don't feel the need to kind of go where other people tell you to, or what is ranked the highest on paper. I firmly believe that it's kind of, you get out of it what you put into it. So as long as you're at a place where you feel comfortable and you feel like you're at home, and you can really excel, then I think that will really carry you. And really, like I said, just you get out of it what you put in. So as long as you're happy, I think that's really what counts.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Josh. Those are some great insights. I hope everybody took some notes, because you're going to get a lot of gems tonight. So I'm gonna call all of you on the panelist in accordance to the order of the squares you're on my screen. So just FYI. So next we're gonna have Kyra. You can come on and share your experience and what that was like, and how you chose your college, and what advice you have for them.
Sure. Thank you for having me tonight. Hello, everyone. Nicole, like you mentioned, I did go to Baruch College, but funny, my college history is a unique one. I actually went to the University of Rhode Island for my freshman year. So back in my high school time, I was very adamant about being a marine biology major. Everything was water focused. I was a lifeguard, I was on the swim team, and the environmental water route was just the right fit for me for a lot of years in high school. So those were the schools that had marine biology or oceanography or something around that. Those were the ones I was applying to. So for me, originally, it wasn't too much about size. It was really about location. Are you on the coast? How close are you to the ocean where you can get hands-on experience or internships or jobs in an area in the summer? And I definitely wanted to be out of New York. I lived in New York all my life, and I'm the eldest of a few siblings. So I wanted to be away from home, and far enough, but not too far. So to start out, I remembered that I chose a few schools that were my top schools that I really wanted to get into. So those are about 4. And then altogether, maybe around 6 to 8 on the list that I was going to apply to, or 4 more schools really, that I was going to apply to in the second round of college applications. So my top choice was the University of Rhode Island, and I actually did get in. And I was able to have a great semester. I learned a lot about myself that year, but one huge thing that I learned was that I needed a shift in my major. I needed a shift in where I wanted to see my life go. And all freshmen there had to attend a seminar called Diversity Week. And my seminar was called Peace Building in Nepal, just to introduce freshmen to campus life, but also get to know each other. And there I was able to learn about all the challenges in the world, well, not in Nepal at the time, but also about the different economic factors and cultural factors that might be happening around the world. And I ended up switching my major to political science. And then I came back home, I transferred, came back to New York, and then I had still a great time commuting. I still got the full college experience. There's a very big difference between urban schools, which are more in the city, and then suburban schools, which have a lot of landscape, maybe driving. But both URI and Baruch College were very different landscapes, and I loved each and every one, each experience and each individual that I met there. So definitely don't regret going there my freshman year and then transferring to Baruch. It ended up really great for me.
Wow, that's amazing. So I know a lot of our students that have brought up in our past panels that they're nervous about, choosing a college and that not being the right college, or not choosing the right major. What you heard here is it's okay. You might not choose the college you're going to graduate from. That's fine. Make a decision. You might not stay in the same major, but that's okay. It's going to, as she said, help you find your path regardless. So thank you for that. That was so helpful. So next we're going to have Shivani come on and give us her experience. I said that correct this time, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have her come on and share her experience, what college she chose, what career path she's in, and just a little advice that you have for the students.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shivani. I grew up in Queens and I graduated from New York University, otherwise known as NYU. I studied economics with a minor in business studies, and currently I work actually in between jobs, finishing my current job at Global Health Corps and starting at the Nonprofit Finance Fund on Monday, working as a financial analyst. So I guess I'll start off talking about the SATs, because I remember that was a major, major deal for me when I was applying for colleges. I was really intimidated by the process, and I was panicking over what score I was going to get and whether it's going to be competitive enough. I think it's still valid today, but you can take it more than once. And I want everyone to know that you can, and it's okay. It doesn't look bad if you take it multiple times. Many people do, and keep at it. There are lots of free resources out there, as well as programs that are low cost that can help you study for the exam. And as for the college application process itself, I was definitely the crazy one where I applied to, I think, 15 schools because I was just that undecisive. I was indecisive about where I wanted to go. And I also applied to a lot of competitive schools, and I was really unsure about my chances of getting in. So much like Josh, I wanted to have my bases covered, and I did apply to a lot of schools. And in the end, I think I had narrowed it down to 3 schools. NYU was one of them. University of Michigan was another one, and Villanova University was the third one. And really it came down to making a list of all the things that I valued. So if you're struggling with deciding where you want to go, I would suggest just make a list of what things that you value. I really valued diversity. I wanted a university that had a global exposure where I would get experience with different cultures. Whether you want to live in a city, or do you want more of the suburban college feel. And then of course, the financial aid package is massive. So factoring in how much each school is giving you, that's also another big consideration that I had. With NYU in particular, because I had grown up in Queens in New York, I did not want to stay in New York. I was just I want to get out of the state. So I was just yeah, I really want to go to UMich because it has that college feel. I'm it has a football team and growing up in New York, we did not have like football teams in high school, so I didn't have that experience. I wanted to get out. But after I like got into NYU and I started there, I realized that it was actually really great. It offered a lot of benefits. And my mind slowly started to change, and it came around to the university and what it was like. And I guess like some things that some advice that I would give. There are lots of like free like programs out there. I think if you're currently located in Queens, I think this program is still operating. It's called College Readiness Program. It's run by Sunnyside Community Services. And when I was with them, they helped me write my college essays for each school, including the Common App application. And they really helped like outline the process. Like being a first generation college student, I didn't have parents who went to college, so they weren't really helpful in figuring out FAFSA and like how to complete it and what's required for each school. And programs like these like really help outline or help break down what you need in order to like get into these colleges. My second advice is submit your FAFSA application on time. Like get a calendar, Google Calendar, get organized, write down all of your key dates, your application deadlines. And also each school offers like application waivers, which was really big for me. If you qualify for financial aid through FAFSA, it's really likely that you can obtain an application waiver from each university. You would just have to call each university and like, tell them about your situation. They might ask for some paperwork, but then they usually give you a waiver that you can use, and you don't have to pay the fee for applying to each school because that can also get really expensive. And last but not least, I would say like leverage the power of networking. I remember when I wanted to go to NYU, like after I got in, I didn't get into like this honors program that I had really like, I really wanted to get in because it just offered a lot of different resources and it came with a scholarship. So I attended this college fair at my high school and there was a representative from NYU there and he was actually like running the program, this honors program. So I just talked to him and I was just like, I'm really interested in this program, but I didn't get in the first time. What can I do to improve my second chance or my second time at applying for this program? And he was like, you know what, like send me an email, send me like some samples of some work that you've like some essays that you've done. And he actually like admitted me to the program just because I took that initiative and I reached out to him. So definitely network. Yeah, I think the last thing before I just wrap up, I know like the cost of college can be really big. It was for me, but I also want to stress that you should try to enjoy the college experience because it only comes around once and you'll never get something like it ever again. And once you're actually in college, like even if your financial package isn't that great, there are so many other opportunities available to you, like scholarships that you can apply for on the side, especially if you're a woman or if you're a person of color. There are a lot of opportunities out there for scholarships. As well as work study jobs on campus. That was really helpful to me. I was able to work while studying. Yeah, just make the most of it. At the end, I would say college was just a great way of meeting a lot of people, networking, figuring out what your passion is. And then remember, there's always grad school if you decide, there's no such thing as a wrong major because you can always go back to school and change and pivot your career. So don't feel any pressure to decide what you want to study early on.
Yeah, wow, that's some really, really great advice. And I have some timeline stuff that I'll share with you after we hear from Michelle for all the students on some of the stuff that you touched on. So last but not least, Michelle, if you want to come on, tell us who you are, what your journey's been like.
Sure, thanks again for having me. I gotta say my college experience was pretty amazing. Best 4 years of my life, and for sure it will be one of the best times of anyone else's lives when you go through that entire process. I didn't have that many options in terms of my college exploration. I was also the first in my family to go to college. And that being said, I didn't even know what schools were out there. I only knew of like the Ivy names and then just a few here and there like St. John's or Binghamton, which is part of the SUNY system. So even like when I was exploring, I didn't know where to look, what did I even want to move out of state? And I felt like I fell into the comfort zone. So unfortunately, I actually only applied to schools really within New York. And oddly enough, I applied to Binghamton, which I thought was a really good school and it was affordable. And I also got into NYU. So there I am, 17. I'm like, oh, I got these two schools. And I went to NYU and I saw I was in the city. And I'm like, I love the location. I love the campus. I love the people who are coming here. And my dad tells me, you're going to Binghamton. I'm like, why? He says, I can't afford to send you to NYU. You're going to Binghamton. At that point, I was devastated. I was like, oh, why does the financial situation have to play a part? But my teacher told me the college experience is what you make out of it. So I took that in the back of my mind, went to Binghamton in the middle of nowhere. It's not in the middle of the nowhere. It's 4 hours north of the Tappan Zee Bridge. So I went there, I made some of my best friends. One of my friends from high school was also there. And I mean, I can't ever think of a better place to, be up 3 o'clock in the morning ordering pizza and having a few good laughs. So, but even when I went there, I had no idea what I wanted to do, what I wanted to study. I was so lost. And the whole idea of college is exploration. And guess what? You're there with everyone else and no one knows what they want to do either, which is fantastic because now you get to talk to everyone. You go, you're by yourself for the first time in your life, no parents, and you're trying to figure out, who am I? What is it that I want to do? What classes should I take? Which is why those general requirement classes are so pivotal because they give you some, taste or flavor as to like, what can I actually be interested in? And whereas in high school, you're kind of forced to study a little bit of everything. In college, you pick and choose later on. I mean, that's the whole idea of a major. You really try to, submerge yourself into that topic. But I ended up enjoying college so much that I ended up becoming a advisor to other students, to freshmen, to say, hey, this is like a resource that the campus offers, or, you seem interested in this. Why don't you explore this major? Now, I was in a weird situation back then where I was originally in the arts school and I also transferred to a business school. But it was really because I played a game of process of elimination. What majors do I absolutely hate? Can I see myself learning biology? No. Can I see myself learning math? No. So I chose business as a way to say, okay, you know what? I'm kind of interested in this. Let me explore it. And I realized I kind of did like it. But I gotta say, college, I mean, to not know what is it that you want to do is okay. To not know where where you want to go, that's okay too. But I guess the idea is be open-minded, ask questions, and the more information you get, the more you realize, I really like the idea of spending Saturday going to see a football game. But if that's something you value, then you're going to look for schools that actually have more of a, sports field. Binghamton didn't have a football team. We had a basketball team. So if you like basketball, that would be a great match. But overall, I mean, I remember how daunting it was. I remember how much work I had to do to prepare and how much I didn't know. And it was so funny that after the fact, I realized, oh, wow, there was so much that I had missed in the whole application process that it's funny that you realize it after the fact. But it's so fantastic that we have so many people here today listening in. And now you guys are going to get the information that some of us may have missed or we wish we knew, when we first started this entire process. So I commend all of you for attending today. This is just another step up to get you moving and to, start asking those questions. What is it that I want from my experience?
Yeah, that was absolutely amazing, Michelle. Thank you so much. That was some really, really, really great advice. Now, before we go into the Q&A section, I just want to go on go through a very basic timeline because I know we have a lot of freshmen on right now, and they're not seniors, they're not juniors, so they're not in the application process, but they're already starting to think about college. And so I just want to go over just a few things that you can do as a freshman, as a sophomore, before you get to your junior year to start preparing for college. So the first thing that you want to do is start considering taking AP courses. Not only are AP courses gonna, prepare you for a rigorous curriculum, but some of them can also get you college credit, which will just make you stand out in the college application process. Also know to focus on your grades. I think, I don't know if they say this now, but when I was in high school, they're like, oh, freshman year doesn't count so much. It's it's sophomore, junior, and senior year. They always count. So just make sure you focus on getting the best grades possible, because again, that is also going to help you stand out. And starting freshman year, get active in your school. So already start to volunteer for clubs. The summer of freshman year going into sophomore year, you should already start be looking for internships and for volunteer work that you can put on your college application will also will help you stand out from the crowd. One thing that I think is super, super important that we don't think about as students is start a dialogue with your parents on how you plan to pay for college. If you have that conversation early with your parents in freshman year, that gives you 3 years between you and your parents to kind of figure out where money is going to come from. And also, there are some scholarships that you can apply to before you get to junior and senior year. So find out what programs are out there that I can apply in my freshman year and secure a scholarship for when I go to college in 3 years. There are programs out there for that. So those are some of the things that I think a lot of you freshmen who are on here, you know, like Michelle said, kudos to you for even being, you know, in this meeting and already starting to think about this. You're already ahead of the game. But those are some of the things that you can start thinking about. Going into your, you know, ending sophomore year, going into your junior year, take into consideration of preparing for the PSAT, you know, just to get you prepared for the SATs the following year, so you're not finding yourself cramming, you know, studying for this thing. And also that in your junior year or even at the end of your sophomore year, start learning about the colleges you're interested. And you, like Michelle said, and some of the others, narrow it down to like 10 or 15 schools. You don't have to apply to that many, you know, but, or you can, but start to narrow your search. And then, you know, you can take it a step further and start to talk or reach out to those colleges and talk to any representatives from those colleges is something that you can do to be proactive, especially in your junior year. And then also lastly, you know, ending your junior year, summer before senior year is a really crucial time where you're going to be preparing for your applications. You want to also start working on your college essay applications before the fall starts, because once the fall starts, you know, it's senior year, there's so much to do. You know, you're going to get overwhelmed with just the amount of schoolwork and activities that you're going to have to, you know, that you're going to be participating in senior year. Give yourself a break, do that summer, you know, summer before senior year, start drafting your college applications, get a calendar and set the deadlines, you know, that you have to look out for in the fall, and also consider early enrollment. And again, I think that's a really great time, because at this point, a lot of your teachers you've known for a few years. So I think summer before senior year is also a good time, you know, when junior years are ending, to pre-ask your teachers for recommendation letters. Decide, who am I going to ask for a recommendation letter? And then ask them, like junior year, when school's ending before summer starts, to say, hey, because your teacher's going to have more free time as well. Do you think you're going to have free time that summer? So are they. And so they might have a little bit more time to get you that recommendation letter, compared to if you wait the beginning of senior year, when the rest of your classmates are going to be asking them for the same thing. You know, then you're going to be put behind the line. So those are just a few things to take into consideration for the freshmen and sophomores on this call, and juniors as well. And with that, we're going to go into the Q&A section, which is one of my favorite parts. So let me go ahead and pull up some of the questions. Give me 1 second. And so what we're going to do in the Q&A section is, well, I'm going to have someone come on and ask the question if they feel comfortable with that. And then if one of our young leaders can answer the question, that's great. If someone else wants to chime in, that's great, but not all 4 of you have to answer the question that they ask. So if you're like pass, then then you can do that. But if you want to, if one of the young leader members wants to answer the question, just go ahead and put that raise hand feature, like class, coincidentally, and then I'll go ahead and call on you. So the first person to ask the question, we're going to bring her on. Isabella Marte, if you can come on and ask your question, we'd love to hear from you. And I think Elizabeth's going to give you permission to, there she is. Oh, Isabella, you have to turn, yeah, there we go.
Hi, thank you so much for all this, great information. But my question is mostly towards Kyra. I also want to major in political science. So I also want to go to law school too, but say I choose not to go to law school, what jobs can I get with like a political science major degree? There you go.
That is a very good question. So I currently work in compliance. It's actually part of a larger legal and compliance program. So you can touch on things like global financial crimes, dealing with regulators like FINRA or the SEC. These are just regulatory bodies that, manage the banks and the flow of how the money's handled in the country. And if you want to study political science but don't want to go to the law route, you can also go the nonprofit route. I have also experienced in the nonprofit sector, and you can do a lot of great work when it comes to the environment or different cultures. Maybe you're interested more in voting rights or anything along the lines of equity or economics. The beauty about political science is that it touches on so many different communities and problems and solutions to bigger problems, both nationally and internationally. So I think you should keep your mind open to whether you want to be in a more corporate or business sector, or if you want to stay in the philanthropy sector or the nonprofit sector. And also if you want to be doing more global work or local work. So definitely explore your options, but continue just looking to see what issues are out there and how you can get involved.
Thank you.
Mhm,
I
sure
also have
thing.
another question, but I think Nicole kind of touched on it. It was just like, where do I start? Like, I'm a junior now, and I know that like I've looked into like certain colleges that I know that I want to apply now, and I've started to like think of ideas for my college essay. But now I'm just like stuck. Like after my college essay, what do I do?
Do you mean stuck in terms of figuring out a topic for your essay?
Yeah, that. And even at that, like after I write my college essay, I just don't know like what to do. What's the next step in the college process?
Got it. Okay. Well, on the subject of topics, I would definitely say one is good to talk about yourself and what you want to do. Like some of my panelists mentioned, things can always change, but it's okay to dream big and just think about what could my future look like in 5 to 10 years. It's okay to talk about that in your applications. Or if there's a problem that you saw in your community or in someone else's community or culture that you want to help, it's okay to talk about those things as well, or what's going on in our current climate in the world. Your second question, can you remind me what it was?
Oh, that was well, my second question was
Okay.
after the essay, what do I do? Like,
Oh, okay. That's a good question. Does anyone have insight? Are you a junior again or a sophomore?
I'm a
Josh raised his hand. So Josh, if you want to
Okay.
turn on your thank you.
Yeah, sure. So, kind of going back to what I said, earlier, I think, really, and also to what Michelle was saying is that, these are 4 years where you really just get to take as much out of it as you can. And in order for you to do that, it's really, I think, important to just kind of think about where it is that you want to be. Just kind of think about, is it important for you to be closer to home? Do you want to say, no, I want to move all the way across the country? So I think that's, a big factor. And also you don't have to know what you want to do, but if there's something in particular that you're interested in, doing some research to see, what schools have programs that are related to that. I think another key element is to think about, the size of the school or the environment that you want to be in. Like I had said, I went to, small schools pretty much my whole life. So I wanted a big school experience. I think probably one of the other things too is I know it's a little difficult. I can only imagine what it's like, visiting schools during COVID. I'm sure it's not easy. But whatever opportunities you have, whether they're nearby, whether it's just seeing schools in the city or seeing schools that are, a few hour drive away, even if you're not considering them, I think it's still good just to experience as much as you can, just to get a flavor. I remember I went to Washington, D.C. with my family, and we looked at a few schools, and I went on a tour for GW. and it's a city school, you know, kind of like NYU is. And I think we walked all of 2 blocks, and I turned to my dad and I said, we can leave. You know, I wanted to, you know, we let the group go, and that was it. Because, you know, I really wanted that more campusy feel, traditional campus experience. So really just kind of get out there and, you know, figure out kind of what you're interested in and where you think you'll really feel at home. I think is all good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think Michelle, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, in regards to like visiting schools, I know right now it's like pretty much impossible with COVID going around and restrictions, but a lot of the schools have taken to Zoom, so you could maybe even join a webinar. So that'll give you some idea of, you know, what kind of majors are even available at certain schools, because the last thing you want to do, not that it's the end of the world, but if you go to a school that you realize, oh, wow, they don't have exactly what is it that I'm looking for, should I consider a different school? I mean, maybe those are things that you could think of, you know, in advance. But the nice thing is you already know what is it that you're looking for. So you could try to focus in on those programs where, you know, these schools have like a network and you have a lot of students who really have had a lot of success and you want to look up to them. So in order to like find out, you know, which schools are already, you know, they have, you know, strong ground in something, and then you could start networking with those students and ask the students, like, what do you do on your weekends? There's going to be a difference in someone who goes to, you know, the school in the city versus when, you know, on my weekends, we would play volleyball outside or go to the nature preserve, but not every school has a nature preserve. But that's something that I remember doing because that was my college experience. And that's very, very specific. But if that's something that you're like, you talk to someone, you're like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. I want that for myself. Then that, you know, understanding like it sounds cheesy, like culture of the school, but you'll realize every school is a little bit different. Everyone has a little different pride, like the way you would be prideful for your high school, like, oh, my high school does this, what does your high school do? But it's having that level of pride and like, oh, I want to belong here. So if you could do as much homework, as small as it is, and it's going to be scary, like you're going to have to send maybe 1 or 2 emails, maybe ask someone, hey, like, can you explain more about what this is, or like how did you prepare, like exactly as you did, like applause, the way that you did, like what kind of jobs can I do with this major? That's a fantastic question. You're already thinking 10 steps ahead. So just continue what you're doing with that, but definitely continue to ask questions. I think that's the best thing you could do.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Oh, so we're gonna have Shivani come on and give her answer, and then we're gonna move on to the next question.
Yeah, I'll be really quick. So after you figure out which schools like that you're interested in, I would say like make a list of the schools and then look at the factors. Like sometimes schools list like their median SAT range score. So you want to look for what kind of SAT score are they looking for and how can I get myself there. So if you haven't taken the SAT yet, just having an eye for what schools are looking for, that can really help you in your studies and then also in your planning. And then also after you're done with like the common application essay, with each school, from what I remember, they have like supplemental essays. So go on their website, grab the questions, and then start writing those because you need all the time in the world. And yeah, I would just say start making a list, and from there you can just narrow it down one by one.
Thank you.
Amazing.
All of
Yeah, all of you. And I'm sorry if I didn't see your guys' hands at first. For some reason, the logos are actually kind of blocking the hand. It's like right here. So it's not your fault, but if I didn't see your hand, that's why I didn't call you right away. So we have a great question. I love this one. So again, if you want to answer it.
Did we lose her?
I think they might have taken off the wrong person. Yeah.
Yeah, Nicole, you're on mute.
Sorry, everyone, I'm back. Technical difficulties, they happen. Okay, so let me go on with the next question. I think you heard me say it's my favorite one. So the next question is, it comes anonymously. So what are the benefits of starting at a 2-year college versus going to a straight 4-year university college? Who wants to take this one?
I can't find the raised hands, but I can go.
Oh, it's at the
Um,
bottom. Yeah, great. It's at the
Oh,
bottom.
okay.
Yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So not only do I have family members who did this exact same scenario, they went to a community school and then actually transferred to a 4-year school. I also have experience in the transfer process. So thank you for asking this question. One benefit is you get to maybe stay close to home. Maybe you want to figure out what that college transition from high school might look like. So you can get acquainted with just being more independent, traveling to school and keeping up with your own schedule. Another benefit to going to community school first and then switching to a different school could be cost factor. I know for me, I transferred to Baruch because the cost benefits definitely outweighed why I originally wanted to go to URI. There are a lot of great scholarships if you are applying to a school that's maybe closer to where you live right now, and you maybe want to figure out, I think going to a community college, you can also figure out, okay, what do I actually want to major in? And then once you figure out that program or that field, you can then pivot into a school that has a really great program that you want to go, or maybe that school that you want to transfer to has really great experiential opportunities, maybe like internships or summer opportunities. It gives you some time to think, develop yourself a little bit more, and maybe save some costs along the way. Does anyone else have any advice that they might think of for doing that transfer, a benefit there?
So I have something I can say on that. I actually, when I first started looking at colleges, I was considering a 4-year, but life happens sometimes, and I ended up needing to go to a 2-year because of a family situation. And so I was, when that happened, I was actually discouraged because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not starting in a 4-year. Like, it got me a little down at first, and then I realized there was a lot of amazing teachers at 2-year colleges. And the 2-year college that I went to was the Pasadena City College and Santa Monica City College out in California. And they were just great. I mean, they had really guidance counselors who helped you put yourself on a path. And so I think the important thing, if you're considering going to a 2-year university, whatever your reasons may be, I think the first step that you need to take, if that's a decision you make, is to sit down with a guidance counselor. Because I think one of the differences that I experienced was at the 4-year university, like, you have a very specific 4-year time, and they're like, okay, what's your major? Okay, and they tell you like, okay, these are the courses that you have to take, and there's more like a definitive plan to get you graduated, and it's your responsibility to take those classes, do well in those classes, pass them, and whatnot. And I think in a 2-year community college, it's a little less structure because people are going there for different reasons. Not everybody is attending a 2-year college to transfer to a 4-year. Some are attending for a vocational certificate. Some of them are attending for just their associate's degree. Some are attending just for fun, like just to take a couple classes. And so I think the difference is that you need to make sure that you seek out the resources in those 2-year colleges, and you set a plan for yourself to transfer if that's your ultimate goal. So I think it can be very constructive. You're not going to get the whole dorm experience, and you'll get that after you transfer, as long as you know that you can manage yourself into staying proactive in that 2-year colleges where everyone has multiple different reasons they're there, and not everyone has the goal to graduate per se. So I think that's something to take into consideration. I mean, obviously you save on money, so that's great. But yeah, so I think those are the main differences from my personal experience. But we're going to move on to another question if nobody else wants to answer this. Yay, no? Okay. So the next question is also coming from Anonymous. Hi, I am a freshman at Cristo Rey New York High School. At my school, we have to work once a week and have volunteer work for the summer. I wanted to know, how does this help me for college? The question. Any volunteers? Sure, go
I
ahead,
could
Michelle.
just kick that off. I mean, colleges want to see that you're doing something outside of the classroom. They're always looking at what that rounded person looks like. So, are you a great student? Fantastic. But what else are you doing? Are you just watching Game of Thrones all day, or are you trying to give back to the community? Which is exactly what your school is trying to, push you guys to do, which is really commendable because they're actually making it a requirement for you to do that. The one thing I could advise you is don't even look at it as a chore. Use it as a way to exercise some form of leadership too. So like if there's a way that you could lead a project or take on more responsibility, it actually teaches you something in that process. And then you could even, use that as an experience or as a story that you might want to even talk about later on in one of your college essays. But always use these things as experiences and as a way to like share more about who it is that you are and what you can contribute not only to the school that you want to attend in the future, but also like how you're going to make an impact in the world around you. Because I think at the end of the day, colleges want to bring people who are motivated and who are going to make an impact, a long lasting impact. So do not discount those opportunities that the school's, trying to push towards the students. I mean, it might sound lame at first, but there's a reason why it's really beneficial, not only to you, but everyone else as well.
Yeah, that's some great advice. Shivani, if you want to go ahead next.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. I remember very distinctly, like when I was applying and also interviewing for colleges, like one of the most common question was like, what's an example of a time where you took initiative? And you need something to say for that. You need to like be able to be, think of an example where you actually led a project or you worked with a team. And I relied a lot on my volunteer experience. And I would encourage you to do the same. So echoing what Michelle said, like finding opportunities where you can get that experience for leadership. Is there a way that you can, start something or organize something or get your peers involved in a project? Like build those experiences and take advantage of that because they'll come in handy like later on when you do have to talk to people about what you've done in your 4 years at high school. And also your volunteer experience is really great material for writing essays. Since there are a lot of different essays, like you'll need to have different stories prepared by the time you're applying. And you won't always be able to get those stories through like the school day. So volunteering, after school clubs, or even working are great ways to, build that experience and create stories for yourself.
And Josh, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything that Shivani and Michelle said for sure. And I think another really important skill that can come out of it is learning how to balance your time. And I think, learning how to balance your time between things like school, friends, family, any other extracurricular activities that you have is a really important skill. And I think that will carry you into college, after college. I have a job that I do during the day, and I also like to help out with CSF. And so, there's skills that I've learned kind of throughout my whole life. And, just as a quick anecdote, when I applied to the business school at Michigan my freshman year, I have to imagine that there were a lot of people on paper, but whether it was grades or other things that, were probably a lot better than me if I had to guess. And one of the things that I did my freshman year was I tried to start a student organization that was related to charity. And so, I have to imagine that was probably one of the things that they viewed favorably that helped me get in. And if there's something similar that you may want to apply to when you go to college, or even just talk about in interviews, whether it's for internships or for jobs after college. Those experiences are incredibly important. You know, it's obviously grades are very important, but you know, when it comes down to it, you know, there are going to be a lot of people who have great grades and a lot of people who have interesting experiences, and it's really interesting conversations and great experiences that you have that you can talk about, that really make you stand out and can help, whether it's you know, college, applying to grad school, internships, jobs, or anything. So I think that's a great opportunity.
Yeah, that's some really, really great advice. Yes, it does definitely help. So we have one last question and then we're going to be saying bye. So let me pull that up really quick. Okay, so this question is also coming from Anonymous. Any tips on working with my high school's guidance department on the college application process? I can kick this one off. I would say before you meet with your guidance department, do your research. Kind of start looking into what you're interested in and already know what colleges you might want to consider before you sit down with them. You want to have some sort of direction, some sort of idea. And I would also write as many questions as possible. I would say at least 10 questions. Might be a lot for, depending how long your session is, maybe some of them are limited, you know, 15, 20 minutes. But I would say just go in prepared, knowing what questions that you want to ask, knowing what you're confused about and trying to find clarity with the guidance department. And so I think that's what I'll start it off with. I don't know who raised their hand first, Michelle or Josh, but Michelle, if you wanna go. Oh,
sure thing. I think my best thing you could do, in my opinion, is also like be vulnerable. Like tell them what your concerns are. Like if all your friends want to travel and be on the other side of the country, but you actually want to stay home, like it's okay. Like no one's going to judge you for that. And I think a guidance counselor will be there to also like reinforce that. But also if there's anything on your transcript that you're like a little bit not, you know, happy with, like maybe it's a certain grade, or maybe it's just like, you know, should I be taking 10 APs in 1 year just so for a college and, you know, hate my high school experience? Like you're supposed to still enjoy high school. So don't ever feel like, you know, give yourself grace, you know, and also realize that, you know, you're a human, but also ask them like, how can I balance, you know, the classes that I have to do, the volunteer work, the clubs and activities, and me trying to get into X, Y, and Z school. And of course, it goes back to the whole concept of there will be those schools that are within your target range. There will be schools that will be in your reach range. Those are the ones that, you know, might be a little bit harder for you to get into. And then there's safety schools that you might actually be one of their ideal candidates, like they actually want you. But give yourself grace and also be very vulnerable. Like talk to the counselor, like they're there to help you. So the more you're transparent and vulnerable to them, the more that they'll see who you are and what is it that you want from the experience, and they'll be able to help you better.
Great. And then Josh, you want to go ahead and give us your perspective?
Sure. I would say that, you know, definitely agree with Nicole. I think go in and at least have, you know, some knowledge or some idea of how the process works, what you need to do, what schools you might want to consider, and what the key criteria are. But also, you know, be very open to what they have to say. Take advantage of every resource that they have to give you. You know, their job is to help you. So, you know, take advantage of all of it. But also, you know, they're not, you know, the referee of deciding whether or not you get into a college or telling you which colleges that you should apply to or shouldn't apply to. You know, I had a great college counselor, and he gave me a huge list of schools, and some of them I was like, I don't even know why you would bother telling me to apply there, because that's not a school I want to go to. You know, so go into it with an open mind and take from it as much as you can, but also don't feel like because, you know, they say you should apply here, you have to, or, you know, it'll be difficult for you to get in here that you shouldn't apply. So, you know, really take as much out of it as you can and just use it as a resource to help inform what it is that you want to do.
Wow. I hope everyone took like at least 2 pages of notes from all this, because this was a lot. This is a lot of great information. Good news is that we are recording it. So we're going to have some clips that hopefully we can share with you online on our social media channels. I just checked our followers. We haven't had any new followers. So it means no one followed us yet from here, but that's okay, because that means you're paying attention. But yes, that was absolutely amazing. I'm so excited that all of you came on to share all this knowledge with our students. So I just want to thank everybody for coming. Also, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email them. Like if you feel like you have a question and you are nervous to ask it, or we ran out of time, feel free to send me an email. I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer that for you even after the Q&A. Where's the chat? There it is. Okay. So I'm going to write that in for everyone. Lastly, again, social media is up above. Look out for our upcoming meetings. And I think, let's see. We do have, if you have a question for, when you're going to email me your question, if you have a question for any of the panelists on here specifically. So like if you actually want to ask Josh a question because he's in your major, or he's going to the college that you wanted, or he went to the college that you wanted to go to, also specify that in your email. And then with the permission of the panelists, if we want us to get in direct contact with the students, then we can also do that. But other than that, thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to put my email in the chat. There's the chat. I don't know why I cannot find it. Any last minute? I think we have like 3 minutes. So is there any last minute message or anything that the panelists want to say before we close it out? Give people a minute to write down my email.
Good luck and have fun.
That's a good one.
Yeah, definitely have fun, but remember to be confident, be authentic. You want to choose a place that will fit with your values. The community is a big part of your college experience and what you can do there. So look at the programs, look at the extracurricular clubs, and just pick a place that you know would mesh with you and your goals and values throughout your time there.
Great. Josh, last thoughts?
I guess the only other thing I would say is no matter where you go, you're going to be just fine. You know, I know a lot of people that I went to school with who, you know, didn't get into their dream schools, but they had the best 4 years of their life. They got the jobs they wanted to get. And, you know, I'm sad to say that I graduated 7 years ago, pretty much this week, but, you know, even 7 years down the road, you know, I'd say all those people are still very happy with, you know, kind of where they wound up. So, you know, don't just take advantage of whatever situation you have, and it'll all work out.
Yeah, don't stress. Okay, and then we have Shivani. Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, echoing everyone, good luck and have fun. And remember, like, rejection is not the end of the world. I remember when I got rejected, I think Columbia was my dream school. When I got rejected from Columbia, I think I cried to my guidance counselor. I was just like, no, like, this is horrible. Like, I worked so hard. But remember, it does not determine your worth. You're worth so much more than that. You bring so much more experience to the table. And remember, in the end, it's their loss. You have to just tell yourself that.
Yeah, 100%. I think I cried my tears out too. It was like a jolting. I was like, so yeah, just have fun. Don't worry about it. And before we go, we are going to take a screenshot so we can capture this moment. So if everyone wants to put their smiley faces on. And I'm gonna count down to 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. With that, we will wrap the meeting. So thank you so much for everyone for coming. Have a lovely evening, and we'll see you at the next event. Look out in your emails. All right, bye.
Bye, everyone.